Hey, it's Chris Caddo, your Chief Performance Partner and your Entrepreneurship Business. Now today I'm at a street market in Asia, and these street markets are all over Asia, all over the Asian continent. But today in particular I'm just off Nathan Road, a famous street in Hong Kong, which is just full of street markets around it. Now there are two fundamental principles that play in these street markets, and one's for the seller and one's for the buyer. And these fundamental principles apply in business whether you're in the Western world or anywhere you might be. And the first principle is that there's no relationship between the cost of something and what somebody's willing to pay for it. And that's what the buyer, or the seller I should say, is constantly playing on. The fact that they don't know what you're willing to pay, particularly if you're a tourist. They don't know what you're willing to pay for a particular good or item. So they'll start off at the highest price possible, which they think is reasonable, and you work your way down from there. Now if you're a buyer, you need to make sure that you understand what you're buying, and that applies whether you're in the Western world or not. And if you don't know what you're buying, the potential is that you will pay a lot more than what you need to. So they're the two fundamental principles, and look, let me explain that a little further. Follow me. Hey, and here we are with Hong Kong Island behind me, and this area, this spot, has been a trading hub for hundreds of years. And last night, or what we saw in those markets, some of the key principles in play. The first one is that there's no relationship between what somebody's willing to pay for a product or service and what it costs you. Often what we do is we jump to the conclusion that our products and services need to be cost plus, or cost plus a particular margin or a markup to come to an appropriate price. But that's actually fundamentally not correct. What somebody's willing to pay for a product or service has no relationship with the cost. It has more to do with their particular circumstance and how they view that product, that good, in that particular moment in time when they're negotiating that price. So let me give you an example. When I first arrived here in Hong Kong, I arrived early in the morning, and I was waiting for some people who were arriving later in the day. So I had a whole day to kill, and I went to the local hotel, at the airport, and asked if I could have a day room where I could have a shower and a bed for the day, so I could catch up on some sleep. And what they offered me was a room for $400. Now, before I left, I looked at the prices. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I looked at the prices, and I saw that it was about $100 for a room at the airport hotel. So clearly, I was going to buy it. And I thought to myself, I'm not going to pay 4 times more than what I was willing to pay before I arrived because of my particular circumstance. However, there are plenty of people out there who would have paid that $400, and they know that. They know that there are plenty of people who arrive and are in a difficult circumstance or in a situation where they had not planned, and they're willing to pay that premium price for that product. And because of the supply and demand, because potentially there's some scarcity in the rooms available, that they're willing to hold back and wait till they get somebody who's willing to offer $400 for that room. But the cost of delivering that service has nothing to do with the $400. They would have made a profit if they sold the room to me for $100. However, that is irrelevant. The point is supply, demand, need at the time, circumstance of the buyer and the seller, and that determines the value that somebody's willing to pay. The second principle is you must understand what you are buying. And when I say that is that often when we go into a marketplace, when we buy a product or service, you might be buying a new website, or you might be buying some marketing collateral or some assistance of your marketing, or any service or product which may help your day-to-day in your personal life, or a good. Now, if you do not understand what you're buying, if you do not understand what's behind it, you do not understand, and this is the key, you must know what's your next best alternative. If you know what your next best alternative is for that product or service, you've got a reference point to negotiate. If you don't know what your next best alternative is when you go to buy something, that means that you should not actually buy. Why? Because you do not have the information on what your potential pricing should be. So before you buy anything in a marketplace, you must know what your next best alternative is. Then you're in a much better position to negotiate with the seller. So the two fundamental principles at play is that when you sell your goods or services, you must understand the seasonality, the circumstance of your buyer, the potential, what's the potential value you could sell your products for. And it's not related to the cost. It's not related to cost at all. You must remember that. There's no relationship between what somebody's willing to pay for something and the cost. Because what they're willing to pay for something is what they see as the value in the product or service. And when you go to buy something yourself, you must understand what's your next best alternative, because then you're in a much better position to negotiate. Now, if you're doing that all the time, you're being consistent with yourself in every selling decision and every buying decision, then you'll get ahead, because you'll always get the best value for your products or services in that particular circumstance, and you'll always buy at the best price, which is closest to your next best alternative. So there you have it. The fundamental principles that you can be taught at a night market, and which are at play at a night market which has been going on for hundreds of years all across Asia. So remember, darkness is the first enemy of mankind. So from Hong Kong, bye for now.